You know that feeling that the world only works because someone is awake while everyone else is asleep? Yeah, I'm one of those people. I've been working as a night delivery driver for 3 years. Those hours between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., when the city seems to breathe differently. When the asphalt reflects the streetlights, bars are closed, and the only constant sound is the engine of the bike and the buzzing of an app urging you to go faster. The truth is, driving alone at night has something hypnotic about it. You start noticing things that would go completely unnoticed during the day. A cat frozen in the middle of the street, a window always lit, the same car parked in the same spot every night. Small patterns your brain picks up when the rest of the world is silent. And sometimes, just sometimes, those patterns look back at you. But before I tell you what happened, let me pause for a moment. This channel is a collection of real, or almost real, accounts from people who saw, experienced, and would rather not remember what they witnessed. If you have a story like that, strange, unsettling, and still keeps you awake, send it to us. Maybe it will appear here, and maybe someone will finally understand what you went through. Now, back to the night everything started. It was an ordinary Thursday. The city damp, traffic-free, only that cold wind that seems to cut through your helmet. I was near the end of my shift, phone buzzing nonstop, but one request caught my attention. It came straight through the screen. No sound notification, just the address and a code. No client name, no associated restaurant. Just a blue dot on a map and the amount. 3 times the normal price. Bonus run, I thought. The kind of order the algorithm sends when it wants to keep you active. I took the route. The address was a commercial building downtown, abandoned for years. I remembered because I'd made deliveries there before, when the ground floor still had a computer store. Today, all the windows were covered with newspaper. No sign, no light. But the map said, "You've arrived at your destination." I got off the bike, the wet tires echoing in the silence. I rang the doorbell instinctively, even though I knew no one would answer. That's when I heard the sound, a metallic click, like a latch unlocking from the inside. The door opened a few inches. Behind it, a tall, thin man in a dark suit. The kind of person who doesn't seem to belong in an abandoned building. "Delivery for code D3442A, I murmured, lifting the package. He nodded. Took the envelope without signing anything, without saying a word. Then he did something strange. He looked at my badge like he wanted to memorize the name, and then slowly closed the door. No thank you, no tip, no sound. I returned to my bike thinking it was over. But when I opened the app to confirm the delivery, the order wasn't there. Not in the history, not in the earnings summary. It was as if it had never existed. I thought it was a system bug. But the more I stared at the screen, the more intentional it seemed. Clock frozen at the same time. Map frozen. I restarted my phone. Nothing. For a moment, I felt that familiar unease. The same feeling when you forget if you locked the door. Only this time, the feeling was reversed. As if someone had unlocked something for me. I let it go. Went home, showered, slept poorly. But what made me realize it wasn't just a technical error happened the next day. The same. Code, just W342A, appeared again. Same price, same location. And for some reason I still can't explain. I accepted it. The following night, the app sent the same order. Same code, just W342A. Same address, the abandoned building. On the screen, everything seemed normal. But now there was something new. A note at the bottom, in lowercase letters. Delivery under supervision. Do not deviate from route. I read it 3 times, thinking it was a joke. But it wasn't. It was there, and the timer had already started. Again, I accepted. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the feeling that I owed an answer to that man in the dark suit. Or maybe because part of me wanted to confirm that what I saw the night before was real. I grabbed my bike. The city was even emptier. Those few night cars seemed like ghosts of a routine. Always the same, on the same streets, as if nighttime traffic was an endless loop. When I arrived at the building, the windows were intact, no sign of life. But the door, it was already ajar. I went in. The air inside was dense, suffocating, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. Emergency lights blinked red, illuminating the corridor in fractions of a second. And on the floor, fresh shoe prints. "Delivery!" I called, my voice echoing. Nothing. I followed the corridor to a frosted glass door at the back, where someone had left a label. "Storage, restricted access." From inside came a low, constant hum, like industrial refrigerators. I pushed the door. The man in the suit was there. This time, not alone. Behind him, 3 people in lab coats, surgical masks, and holding tablets. None of them looked at me. The man just pointed to a stainless steel table and gestured to leave the package. I did as he asked. But when I turned to leave, I heard a metallic click and realized he had locked the door behind me. "What is this?" I asked, trying to hide my nervousness. No response. One of the lab coats just typed something on the tablet, and the sound of the lock clicked again, as if controlled electronically. They acted as if I didn't exist. And at that moment, one of the tablets beeped. The screen displayed a list. My name was on it. My stomach turned. Before I could react, the man in the suit approached and handed me something. My own phone. Only it wasn't mine. It was identical, but no wallpaper, no apps, no SIM. Just the company logo flashing in gray. "Your next delivery," he said, finally speaking. His voice was deep, neutral, like an instructional recording. "But this isn't mine," I replied. He only repeated, "Next delivery." I left the building almost stumbling. When I looked back, the door was already closed again, with no visible lock. On the bike, the new phone turned on by itself, and a single app appeared on the screen. Route. No icon, no login. When I opened it, there was only a map and a new address. But what froze me was the starting point. It wasn't the building. It was my house. I got home at 3:20 a.m. The hour building was silent, except for a distant TV in some apartment. I locked the door, dropped the new phone on the table, and sat down, trying to make sense of it. My regular app didn't register anything anymore. The previous day's history had vanished, even the normal orders. It was as if someone had reset my account, my routine, my entire digital record. I looked at the new phone. The screen was flashing. A new line appeared. "Delivery completed. Await instructions." And then, as if it had heard my thoughts, my original phone, the real one, vibrated on the counter. Payment notification. Amount tripled. No sender. I should have stopped there. I should have ignored everything, thrown both phones in the trash, and gone to sleep. But that night, when I lay down, the buzzing sound from the warehouse still echoed in my head. And I swear, just before I passed out, I heard a click eerily similar to the sound of those electronic locks. Only this time, it came from my door. The next morning, I decided I couldn't treat this as a coincidence anymore. I opened my laptop, logged into the company's official portal, and tried to report what had happened, or at least part of it. But the support page said, "Your login has been suspended for security updates. Please wait for contact." Suspended. No warning, no reason. I grabbed my normal phone and looked up the supervisor's number, a guy named Rick, who always handled the night shift delivery problems. I called. Calls rejected. Tried texting. Delivered. But no reply. I decided to go to the central warehouse. I arrived around 9:30 a.m. The parking lot was nearly empty, which was strange, because the place used to be buzzing with vans and bikes leaving for deliveries. The doors were open, but the front desk was empty. I walked to the back, shouting, "Is anyone here?" A woman appeared, wearing the company's gray uniform, badge hanging around her neck. "Can I help you?" she asked politely. I explained what happened, the mysterious order, the abandoned address, the man in the suit, and the fake phone. She listened to everything with a neutral expression until the end. Then she asked, "Do you remember the order number?" "Yes, a D342A. She typed something on the computer, then furrowed her brow. "That order doesn't exist." "What do you mean it doesn't exist?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me. In the list, all my orders were there, except that one. It was as if someone had deleted it. "And Rick? Does he still work here?" I asked. She hesitated. "Rick." She repeated the name, looking at the ceiling, trying to remember. "Yes, the night supervisor. He's been here about 3 years." She shook her head. "I've been here since opening, and we've never had anyone by that name." My stomach went cold. I thanked her and left. In the parking lot, I opened the app. This time, the screen flashed before loading, and the map appeared on its own. A new point was blinking with the message, "Urgent delivery. Time 00:45. I tried to decline. The button didn't work. Suddenly, the phone vibrated. The other phone, the fake one, inside my backpack. When I picked it up, the screen showed the same route. But there was a difference. A floating notification in the corner. "Previous failure. Irregular conduct. This is your final test." My final test. I should have turned everything off. But the sound of the countdown, the number decreasing, and that feeling that something was being measured, maybe my obedience, made me start the bike and follow the route. The address led me to a part of the city I had never been to, a cluster of industrial warehouses near the railway. Everything looked somewhat abandoned, but the gate was ajar. I passed slowly, the sound of the engine echoing between the empty warehouses. The point on the map indicated a metal door. I rang the bell. Nothing. Suddenly, the phone vibrated with a new message. "Deposit the package inside." But there was no package. The order was just an address. Blinked several times, confused. Then I noticed the reflection of the bike's light falling on a small box near the entrance. No label, no sender. Clean cardboard, new. As if it had been placed there just a few minutes ago. I picked it up. It was light, almost empty. I entered the warehouse. The smell of rust and mold was strong. There were old shelves, open boxes, and a narrow corridor leading to the back. I placed the box on the first table I found and turned to leave. But the door was already closed, locked. I tried to open it. Nothing. The phone vibrated. Delivery confirmed. The sound of the timer stopped, and, for the first time, I noticed that there were cameras on the walls, one in each corner, with red lights blinking. I pressed the call button, but both phones showed the same thing. Transmission active. And it was there, alone, surrounded by boxes and the smell of rust, that I realized maybe I had never delivered anything. Maybe I was the package. I went home while it was. Still daytime, but it felt like midnight. My body was trembling, my stomach nauseous. I threw the phones into the toilet and flushed. I watched them spin, until they disappeared. But at night, as I tried to sleep, the buzzing returned. Low, persistent, and it wasn't coming from any specific place. I opened my eyes, and the sound stopped. I stayed there, awake, waiting for it to start again. I spent the night wide awake. When morning came, I was still sitting on the edge of the bed, eyes fixed on the door. Nothing happened. But the feeling of being watched didn't go away. It just became more subtle, more precise. I went to work anyway. The original app had stopped working, so I used another delivery service. Normal route, normal orders, everything ordinary. But at every corner, I saw the same silver car parked. Same model, same partial license plate, EX42. Every time I looked again, it had already disappeared. I thought I was going paranoid. Until, on the third delivery, I noticed something. The client was already at the door before I even rang the bell. He opened, took the package, and said, "Thank you, Mr. Anderson." But I had never said my name. I got back on the bike with my heart racing. I opened the app to check the order, and the client's name was there. Anderson M., my name. I turned off the phone, took a deep breath, tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a system error. Maybe someone coincidentally used the same name. But the more I tried to find a logical explanation, the more the coincidences piled up. In the following days, I noticed subtle changes. The sound of the bike engine seemed deeper, as if something had been attached. The lights in my hallway flickered every time I passed. And the intercom in my apartment started ringing around 3 a.m. Always 3 short rings, then silence. The third time, I decided to answer. "Hello?" Silence on the other end. Then static, and a metallic, distorted voice saying something almost inaudible. "Delivery." "Confirmed." I hung up immediately. But when I looked out the window, there was a silver car parked across the street. Partial plate, EX42. The next morning, I went to the dealership where I bought the bike. I asked them to check if there was a hidden tracker. The mechanic lifted the seat, looked underneath, and after a few minutes, found something. A small black device attached to the internal frame with a blinking LED. He showed me. "This is a military-grade tracker," he said. "Not civilian. Equipment." I felt the ground vanish beneath me. I asked him to remove it and destroy it. He hesitated. "Man, are you sure? This could cause trouble." "Just do it," I insisted. He threw the device on the floor and crushed it with a wrench. The LED went out. For a moment, I felt relief. But that same night, the buzzing sound returned, coming from inside my wardrobe. I opened it slowly, and there it was. A new phone. The same model. With the screen on, displaying only one message. "Failure. Recorded. Unit replaced. Transmission reactivated." At that point, I already knew. It wasn't coincidence, nor paranoia. They were tracking me, testing me, maybe studying my reactions. I thought about going to the police, but what would I say? Someone is tracking me because I delivered to an abandoned building that doesn't exist in the records? They'd either laugh or have me committed. So I decided to do something different. If they were watching me, I would watch back. I bought a cheap micro camera and left it pointed at my own door. The next day, I reviewed the footage. And around 3:13 a.m., the footage showed the intercom ringing 3 times. Then, the camera captured something that froze me. The door opened by itself, slowly, as if someone had a key. A shadow entered, crossed the room, and stopped in front of the camera. It stayed there, motionless. Then, the footage cut. The next morning, when I returned home, the USB drive with the recordings was broken in 2 pieces on it. The table. Now, I don't even know what security means anymore. I changed the locks. I changed my address. But the feeling of being followed doesn't go away. Every time I pass a corner, I see reflections of myself in windows, in cars, in traffic cameras. And the worst part is that sometimes the reflection doesn't move with me. I decided I needed to understand. If I kept running, I would never have peace. I took the new phone, that one that appeared on its own, and instead of throwing it away, I did. The opposite. I followed the instructions. There was a tab called Active Route and a red button blinking, Start Delivery. I pressed it. The screen showed a map with a single destination, Industrial Zone 47, Hangar 12, distance 11.3 kilometers. It was close enough to ride my bike, but far enough to feel like I was crossing a line. I arrived at the location just before 3 in the morning. The gate was ajar, rusted. A cold wind cut through the dark corridor. Inside, rows of stacked containers, all marked with the same symbol, a hexagon cut by a red line. The GPS vibrated in my pocket. The synthetic voice of the app whispered, "Arrival confirmed. Deposit the package." But I didn't have a package, and that's when I realized the package was me. In that moment, the lights in the hangar turned on all at once, and I saw that I wasn't alone. There were rows and rows of motorcycles identical to mine, and on each one, a delivery rider, standing still, motionless, wearing the same uniform, the same helmet, all facing me, none of them breathing. Suddenly, the helmets lit up from the inside, revealing faces. My face. Hundreds of versions of me, watching, waiting. The phone's voice spoke again. "Original unit detected. Replication process complete." I stepped back. The voice continued. "Your cycle has ended. Your function now is to observe." I dropped the phone, ran to my bike, and sped off without looking back. I don't remember exactly how long it took to get away. I just remember the hangar. Lights shrinking in the rearview mirror until they disappeared. When I got home, the clock read 4:17 a.m. My whole body was shaking. But what made me collapse was seeing the apartment door open. And on the table, there was an envelope. Inside, a single printed sheet. "Delivery received. Thank you for your cooperation, Anderson." Below it, the hexagon symbol with the red line. After that, I moved to another city. I deleted accounts, documents, any trace that could link me to that. But it didn't. Help. Yesterday, the new delivery app I started using froze during a run, and for a few seconds, the screen flashed, showing a message that shouldn't have been there. Transmission active. Substitute unit en route. The front camera of the phone turned on by itself, and before I could turn it off, I saw for a moment, just a moment, someone watching me, wearing the same uniform, the same jacket, but the face was mine. If you ever receive a package you didn't order, don't open it. Maybe it didn't come from an address, but from a copy of you that hasn't realized it's being tracked. Oh, and if you're hearing this at night, before going to bed, maybe check if your phone is really in airplane mode. Because sometimes, when it vibrates, it's not a notification. It's just them checking if you're still in the right place. You know, I spent most of my life believing that work defined me. That if I delivered fast, with a smile and a good rating, the world would reward me with stability. Or, at least, some invisible recognition. But what I learned is that sometimes, the more efficient you are, the easier it is to replace you. We get used to following preset routes, to trusting apps that tell us what to do, voices that say, "Turn right," even when instinct screams to go the other way. And one day, without noticing, you wake up and don't even remember the last time you chose something on your own. At first, I thought the problem was the job. But the problem wasn't the delivery. It was obedience. It was the habit of hitting accept delivery before asking why. Because when you accept everything, the world starts deciding for you. What to wear, what to eat, what to think, what to fear. And in the end, you don't even need a leash. The system guides you with digital rewards, small doses of approval, smiles in the form of notifications. That's how they make you predictable. And when you're predictable, it's easy to program you. So, if there's one piece of advice I can leave, it's this. Don't accept every delivery. Not every message is meant for you. Not every route the map shows is the right one. Sometimes the real destination is off route. When in doubt, slow down. Question. Look twice before following instructions, especially when they seem too perfect. Because there's something terrifying about realizing that the greatest control isn't what forces you to obey. It's what convinces you that you're choosing on your own. And if one day your phone vibrates in the middle of the night and the screen lights up with an address you don't recognize, don't accept it. Delete it. Breathe. It might be just another system bug. Or it might be the algorithm testing how far you would go if you believed you were still the driver. Take care of your route before someone traces it for you. And if it's already too late, then at least drive with the lights off. Sometimes that's the only way to go unnoticed. Until the next story.